What if the thing making you tired is not your busy life, but the way your mind never stops moving? Most people believe they need more time, more success, or more control to finally feel at peace. But what if that belief is the very reason peace feels so far away? Long ago, one quiet thinker noticed a truth that still surprises people today. Once you see it, you may never look at your daily life the same way again. You wake up already moving. Before your feet touch the floor, your mind has begun its familiar journey. It reaches toward unfinished conversations, tomorrow's responsibilities, yesterday's regrets, and countless small concerns that seem too ordinary to question. The day has not truly started, yet something inside you is already running. It feels so normal that you rarely notice it. This quiet rush has become the background music of modern life. We move from one task to another, one goal to the next, believing that constant motion must surely lead somewhere meaningful. If we stop, even for a moment, an uneasy feeling often rises, as though stillness itself has become something to fear. The strange part is that no one deliberately chose this way of living. It happened little by little, a habit formed from countless small moments, until the mind learned to fill every empty space with another thought, another plan, another comparison. Silence slowly disappeared, replaced by an endless conversation that never seems to end. We become experts at staying occupied, yet beginners at simply being. A free afternoon feels like something that needs to be conquered. A quiet walk quickly becomes another opportunity to solve problems that may never arrive. Even moments meant for rest are quietly transformed into preparation for what comes next. And so the search continues. More success, more certainty, more control. We keep believing that peace is waiting just beyond the next achievement, never noticing how often that destination quietly moves farther away. This invisible exhaustion does not always feel dramatic. It rarely announces itself. Instead, it settles gently into everyday life. It appears as the inability to sit without reaching for distraction. It hides inside restless evenings, racing thoughts before sleep, and the strange feeling that even after accomplishing so much, something essential still feels missing. Centuries ago, long before screens, deadlines, or endless notifications, Lao Tzu quietly observed the same pattern. He saw that the greatest noise was never outside us. It was the endless movement within the mind itself. While most people search for peace by adding more to their lives, he noticed that every addition often carried another hidden burden. He did not condemn ambition or effort. He simply recognized something easy to overlook. A river does not become powerful because it struggles. A tree does not grow by forcing itself upward. Nature moves without the anxious urgency that so often defines human life. And yet nothing in nature fails to become what it is meant to be. That simple observation reveals an uncomfortable question. If all our striving has brought more speed, more choices and more accomplishments, but not the peace we expected, then perhaps the problem was never a lack of effort. Perhaps it was something much quieter that we stopped knowing how to hear. It is easy to believe that peace belongs to a future version of yourself, the version that is more successful, more disciplined, more respected, more certain. We quietly promise ourselves that once we arrive there, the restless feeling inside will finally disappear. Yet every destination seems to become another starting point. The promotion leads to a greater expectation. The achievement gives birth to a new ambition. Satisfaction visits briefly, then slips away before we even realize it was there. This is not because growth is wrong. The desire to learn, to create, and to improve is part of being human. The hidden burden appears only when our sense of worth becomes tied to what has not yet been achieved. Without noticing, we begin treating our own lives as unfinished projects, believing that who we are today is merely preparation for someone more valuable tomorrow. The mind becomes trapped in constant becoming. It measures, it compares, it imagines a better version standing somewhere ahead, and quietly decides that the present self is not enough. Every accomplishment offers relief, but only for a moment, because the mind has already chosen another horizon to chase. Lao Tzu saw a different pattern unfolding all around him. He looked toward rivers, mountains, forests, and seasons. None of them struggled to earn the right to exist. A flower does not bloom because it envies another flower. The moon never rushes to become full before its time. Everything follows its own nature, and in doing so, nothing is left incomplete. Perhaps that is why harmony feels so different from achievement. Achievement depends on reaching somewhere else. Harmony begins by standing fully where you already are. It does not reject effort, but it frees effort from the fear of never being enough. Living according to the Tao is not abandoning growth. It is allowing growth to unfold without making your identity depend upon it. Action still happens. Dreams remain. Work continues. But the quiet desperation beneath them begins to loosen its grip. And when that desperate need to become someone else starts to fade, another possibility slowly comes into view. A life shaped not by doing less, but by moving through the world in an entirely different way. The more closely you watch nature, the stranger one truth begins to feel. The strongest things are rarely the loudest. They do not demand attention or announce their power. They simply remain faithful to their own nature, and over time, they shape everything around them. No image captured Lao Tzu's understanding more clearly than water. Water never argues with the stone standing in its way. It does not become frustrated by obstacles or try to overpower them through force. It bends, flows, pauses, and changes direction when necessary. Yet year after year it smooths mountains, carves valleys, and reaches places that rigid strength never could. Its power comes not from resistance, but from perfect harmony with the path before it. This quiet way of moving through life became known as Wu Wei, a principle often misunderstood because it appears almost too simple. It does not mean doing nothing. It means acting without the endless strain that comes from fighting reality. There is effort, but not struggle. Movement, but not constant pushing. Decisions arise from clarity rather than panic. Think about the moments when you made your wisest choice. They rarely came while your mind was racing. They appeared after the noise settled, when something inside became unexpectedly still. In that silence, you could finally see what had been hidden by urgency. Patience was no longer weakness. Waiting was no longer wasted time. The next step revealed itself because you were no longer forcing every possible direction. This is the quiet strength Lao Tzu pointed toward. It does not seek to control every outcome. It remains flexible enough to meet whatever arrives. Like a tree that bends with the wind instead of breaking against it, True resilience belongs to those who know when firmness is needed and when softness carries greater wisdom. At first, this way of living feels almost unbelievable. We have been taught that success belongs to those who push harder, react faster, and hold tighter. Trusting stillness can seem like surrender, as though life will simply pass us by if we stop trying to control every moment. And yet, those who begin to move with the current instead of against it often discover something unexpected. Life does not become smaller, it becomes clearer. The question is no longer whether this quiet path is possible, but what begins to change once it becomes the way you live. Nothing outside has to change before something inside begins to soften. The same morning arrives, the same work waits, the same people fill your life. The world does not suddenly become easier, yet you meet it differently. What once demanded an immediate reaction now receives a quiet moment of attention. Decisions no longer come from fear of making the wrong choice, but from seeing the situation as it truly is. In that small shift, life begins to feel less like a battle and more like a conversation. You notice it in places that once seemed ordinary. A disagreement no longer needs to become a victory. Silence no longer feels awkward. Waiting loses its bitterness because every moment is no longer measured by what it could produce. Even time seems to move differently. Days are no longer chased. They are experienced. This does not mean difficulties disappear. Loss still arrives, uncertainty still visits. There will always be seasons that test the heart. But when your peace no longer depends on controlling every outcome, those seasons lose much of their power to shake you. Like water flowing around a fallen branch, you continue moving without losing your direction. Perhaps this is the quiet freedom Lao Tzu wanted people to discover. Not a life without effort, but a life without unnecessary struggle. Not the absence of responsibility, but the absence of the constant tension that turns every responsibility into a burden. You still grow, you still work, you still care deeply. Yet beneath every action is a calm that no achievement can create, and no failure can take away. In the beginning, it seemed as though peace was something waiting somewhere ahead, hidden beyond one more accomplishment, one more answer, one more version of yourself. That belief kept the mind searching long after the heart had grown tired. But the journey quietly reveals something else. Peace was never standing at the end of the road. It was patiently waiting beneath the noise that never stopped long enough for you to notice it. And perhaps the better life you have been searching for does not begin when the world finally becomes quiet. Perhaps it begins the moment you do.